0 to 60 can define a performance car, but it's the fastest 60 to 0 that's the aim of Terox brakes. From road cars to race cars, circuits, special stages, or the autostrada, nothing reduces speed like Terox brakes. Italy gave the world the art of Da Vinci and Michelangelo. Terox has given drivers the art of stopping. For more information and to acquire your own masterpiece, visit terox.co.uk. Yes, it's me, Mike Stone, and this is the Backseat Driver Podcast. It's the fastest, it's the friendliest, and it's for all the family. The Gas Shocks 116 Trophy and 120 Coupe Cup are the fastest growing race series in the UK, taking in 6 one-hour races and 8 sprints at all the top circuits. Visit 116trophy.com to find out more and get yourself behind the wheel. From a pot of tea to TT motorbikes. From a classic English breakfast to a full serving of classic cars. Bridge House Tea Rooms is the Northwest premier classic car meeting location for cars, bikes, tractors and owners clubs. So no matter what your automotive appetite might be, visit Bridge House Farm Tea Rooms on their Facebook page or call John and Alicia on 07980 444 221 for show details and to reserve your own table and parking space. New motoring magazines are a rarity these days, especially in the UK. Go over to Europe, France, Germany, etc., and they are quite a commonplace thing. The magazine racks in the news outlets grow with them, but not so much the UK. So it's very interesting to introduce to the Backseat Driver Daniel Beavis, or Dan as he prefers to be called, editor of Copacetic magazine. Dan, welcome to the Backseat Driver.
Thanks very much for having me.
Before we go any further, Copacetic. Before we went on air, you explained it was a well-known word, and it shows how behind the scenes I've been. What does Copacetic mean?
Well, perhaps well-known, it was stretching it a little bit. There's a very geeky story behind the word itself. It actually stretches back as far as the idea of modifying cars.
Yeah.
In the post-war sense, it's a slang term, which kind of means everything's okay, it's all right, everything's good. And it's a term that it grew massively in popularity through the 60s and 70s. You'll find it in a lot of B movies and what have you. And when I suggested this name to our art editor, he said, wow, I haven't heard that since The Sopranos. So it's a word that some people will be familiar with, and they might have an idea of what it means, but you don't hear it a lot these days. So it's a little kind of memory trigger. People will say, oh yeah, I remember that from that film or what have you. But it's something that we can own. It will come to mean our magazine.
Right, because I must say I was a fan of The Sopranos. I like The Sopranos, but I must have missed it where he mentioned that. Well, I was too busy watching them count cash and eat cannolis, probably.
Well, next time you watch it, you'll be listening out for it.
Yes. Now, the magazine's described as modified cars for the inquisitive minds. Would you like to quantify that?
Yeah, well, the idea behind this is essentially to destigmatise and reframe the idea of what modified cars means.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of people, I think that still harks back to kind of 90s lads mags, burnouts on seafront, girls in bikinis kind of thing. And
there was now wrong with that, young man, I'll tell you that. I never participated, but I did watch the odd one.
Yeah, I mean, it was a phenomenon. The max power fast car revs red line thing in the 90s was absolutely massive, and it's a really important kind of cultural and historical marker for a lot of people, and that's what got them into the cars that they have today.
Yeah.
But the scene has moved on a lot since the 90s. So modified cars these days, it still means people building project cars in their garages. That's still a massive scene.
Yeah.
But it's also high-end six-figure resto mods. It's electric concept cars. It's low-volume supercars. So we cover a little bit of everything. We are mark agnostic. We cover all marks, styles, ages. It's basically, if you can't buy it in a showroom and it's got a bit of a weird story behind it, that's what is in our wheelhouse.
Now, unfortunately, I have a copy of the first edition sat in front of me because Nick Council, our mutual friend from Tarox Brakes, when I went to see him the other week, said, "Have you seen this? Take that and have a read." And it's got for the first edition, it's an incredibly eclectic mix. On the front, we have a Buick Grand National that's been modified. We've the Renault 5 Turbo 3E, the Theon 911, maybe similar in a way to the famous Singers, an incredible Koenig Special 635 CSI, which I must confess at the back end reminds me of a Testarossa, Lamborghinis, Chevrolets, Vauxhall Novas. Now, everybody's got to remember a modified Vauxhall Nova. But
well, that's it. I had to have a Nova in the first issue because that was my first car. And when I was growing up, everyone either had a Nova or wanted a Nova.
Yeah.
So that was an essential element in the mix for me.
I must confess, to see a Nova these days is a pure and unbelievable rarity. I think most of them were either modified beyond belief or just got written off.
That's it. Yeah, they've either rotted away or they've got wrapped around trees. So there's very few left.
Now, looking at this, I mean, it's a very eclectic mixture. And there's a lot of them in the first edition. I mean, are you going to be able to keep this up?
I'll be honest, I have been overwhelmed by submissions, so much so that I've got the next 8 issues all planned out.
Well done.
It's the great thing about covering all styles and all genres and all ages, is that you're not tied to any particular thing. So anything that seems like a good idea is something that can be kind of factored in. So I won't give away too many spoilers of what we've got coming up, but if you thought this was eclectic, wait till you see what's coming next.
Hidden away in the heart of the Ribble Valley, Specialised Automotive Services offer unrivalled levels of talent for all types of vehicles. All makes and models, old and new, are cared for with the exact same levels of detail. From accident repairs, paintwork, or even full bespoke bare metal resprays. Mechanical rebuilds to full replacement or modifications of defunct electrical systems. Specialised Automotive Services offer traditional engineering and mechanical skills along with the company's constantly updated digital systems and diagnostics. Each SAS technician embodies the SAS ethos of ensuring everything is in order and exactly as it should be. To arrange a guided tour of the workshops and the new vehicle finishing and detailing bay, call Dean on 01282 776 081 or visit sas-autos.co.uk. I mean, the movement then, looking at this, whilst you said, I mean, everybody thinks of, you said, max power and hatchbacks, etc., and Subarus with the most incredible hi-fi systems fitted to them and infeasible exhausts. I conclude, looking at this, the modifying movement has, shall we say, aged. It's taken on a maturity.
Yes, I think that's fair to say. I mean, the kind of cars that were built in the max power era still have a huge following. And in fact, they've got to the stage now where particularly notable show cars are being fastidiously restored as they would have been at the shows in the 90s.
Yeah.
In fact, interestingly, Millsy, one of the original writers on Max Power, has just launched a sort of redux of that magazine called Maxers.
Oh.
Which focuses solely on those style of cars.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important part of what we have to cover in Copacetic, because that's where it all started for a lot of people. And some people are still very much into these kind of big power hot hatches with big stereos and what have you. As some people who used to be building and driving those cars have now moved on to either restored hot hatches in a more standard style, or onto the resto mods, or indeed into supercars.
Right. I mean, what exactly is a resto mod? I mean, I see you see them. It's like you see certain ones, Jaguars, and it seems to have got a highly modified engine, big wheels, and huge exhausts, and various other things. But what is a resto mod exactly?
Okay, so a resto mod is where you take a classic car and you restore it and upgrade it in a way that it has modern performance, modern brakes, modern handling, but it still has the classic style. So there are some companies that really pioneered this in a high-end fashion. For example, Alphaholics is a company that does this with classic Alfa Romeos. You mentioned Singer earlier. They are massive in the 911 resto mod scene and have countless copycat companies doing similar things. So it's essentially a way of getting a classic car that can perform like a modern car.
And looking at it, I mean, what you like Singer and the other 911 in here, the Thor one, these cars are not cheap, are they? I mean, they will be an expensive purchase as a classic car. And I conclude the classic car they buy is one that is in need of restoration. They won't do it to an already restored vehicle. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, to use Singer as an example, the end results are incredibly expensive.
Oh, yeah, eye-wateringly expensive, yeah. But these are cars that are bought by collectors. I think the average buyer of a Singer probably owns about 20 other cars. You know, they're cars that are built to be used, but fundamentally they are not anybody's sole car.
Yeah. So, I mean, how many companies do this? Do you tend to find it's companies that do this on behalf of their client, or do the people do it themselves?
Well, it's a mix. I mean, there are some companies like those that I just mentioned, and others like Eagle famously have been resto modding E-Type Jaguars for years. So there are some companies that will specifically focus on a particular type of car, like Singer do 911s, for example. Or in the first issue of Copacetic here, we've got a Datsun 240Z, which is done by MZR, who focus solely on Z cars. But then there are other companies who will take a brief of any car. So in the next issue, for example, we're talking to Retro Power, who you might be familiar with, who've built some incredible resto mods. We're featuring their Morris Minor. They're about to finish an Austin Allegro that's been rebuilt with Honda Integra Type R running gear. They've done a Mark II Jag, Mark I Escort, loads of things. And again, these are very expensive cars, but they're built to order.
Yeah.
At the same time, a lot of people are doing this in their sheds and garages as well. It's become a massive phenomenon in the classic car scene, really, that you have this permission to upgrade rather than having to do something fastidiously, painstakingly to factory specifications to kind of appease Concord judges or what have you.
Yeah.
There's more of an allowance that you can improve things where you want to. You can fit bigger brakes or a better gearbox or make it more powerful or have nicer seats or what have you. You don't have to do it exactly as the factory kind of dictated.
Right. I mean, to use the Vintage Sports Car Club as an example, they will frown upon, to a degree they'll virtually try and prosecute, somebody who takes a very, very nice, very usable vintage car, and I mean, one of the best known ones are the Bentleys, and take a Bentley Saloon or an Austin 7, rip its body off and turn it into something it never was. Do the modifying guys tend to have this attitude as well? Well, we won't do it to a nice car, we'll do it to a car that needs restoration in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, it's a balancing act. So companies like Singer and Eagle will, I think is the norm that they will seek out rotten, seemingly unsavable cars, or at least cars that are in need of work, rather than starting with something that could be still kind of day-to-day usable. But at the same time, particularly for people building their own projects in sheds, there's always this mantra that you start your project with the best possible base.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a moral dilemma there with kind of starting with the best car and not killing a good one. And it's always going to cause debate. But I mean, debate is healthy, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a whole thing. I mean, yeah, online there's a bit of nastiness that goes on where people like to comment on a car if they don't like it, and you say, "Oh, you ruined that." And the point behind that really is that what somebody else does to their own car doesn't affect your life in any way whatsoever.
No, very true.
As long as you haven't killed the last one left, then it's nobody's business, really.
I mean, as an example, a good few years ago on Facebook, a young girl started to follow me because of what I do, so I followed her. I won't give her name away. And she'd heavily modified her Ford Focus.
Uh-huh.
And it was interesting. She talked about how much faster she got it to go and all the interior modifications and everything else. And then I inquired, I said, just out of interest, you've made your Focus. Now, it didn't start life as a fast one. She made it fast. I think it was a relatively ordinary 1600.
Yeah.
And I commented, I said, just out of interest, what have you done to upgrade the suspension and upgrade the brakes to make the car be able to cope with what you've done to its engine? And she more or less blocked me, because from what I could gather, she had done absolutely nothing to what you might call the other end of the car. And you think, I mean, is this a common thing in modifying? Because it may have been in the max power days. People did all sorts to make them faster and noisier and everything else, but neglected what you might call the basics. Has the attitude to modifying cars changed and become, for want of a better phrase, common sense? They do the entirety of the car.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to take a holistic approach to these things. And I think there's still, again, as a hangover from the max power range, there is still a focus solely on power for a lot of people. I mean, the logical thing to do is to deal with the fundamentals first. So the first modification you make to a car should be to the suspension, to the brakes.
Yeah.
And then, you can exploit the power that you have before you start adding more in. I mean, what's particularly interesting with Copacetic is we immediately had some interest and a lot of support from an outfit called the Performance Automotive Aftermarket Association, the PAAA.
Oh, I've also never heard of them.
Well, talk to your friend Nick at Tarox. He is very instrumental in the PAAA.
Right.
And their aim is to educate basically about the grown-up side of modifying. So it's not just about chucking a load of extra power into your mum's hatchback. It's about creating something that is better in all regards.
Yeah.
And so maintaining kind of factory standards of safety as well as reliability. So it's not just about power, it's about the full package.
Right. And the people who are doing this now, apart from those who are spending a lot of money to have it done, has the age range changed? Because, I mean, once again, to quote the old magazine Max Power, a lot of the people who were involved in that type of car were extremely young. Where they got the money from to do it all, I never knew. But have the owners and the builders matured? Is it the same lot from Max Power that have transitioned to Copacetic?
Well, yeah, I mean, these things are generational. So there is a huge kind of swell of excitement for these cars amongst young drivers. But there's also that kind of remaining enthusiasm among people in their 30s, 40s, 50s who grew up doing this to cars. So the show scene in the UK is massive. There are loads of modified car shows. And when you go to them, you'll find that it's mostly people in their 20s who want to meet up with like-minded people and discuss the cars that they're building.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's very different to the way it was in the 90s and the early 2000s, because now it's a lot easier to get a car on finance. So you get a lot of what people call air and wheels builds, where you buy a car on finance, you put it on air ride suspension, you put some fancy wheels on it, and that's the whole car done. Which it's not a cheap thing to do, but it's completely reversible when your finance deal is up and you give the car back. So that's a route into the scene for a lot of people. But also, there's a lot of affordable cars out there that are very easy to modify, that are very well served by the aftermarket. So you mentioned
Your variety is such as?
Well, you mentioned this girl with the Ford Focus. So the Ford scene is absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And you can buy, for example, a Mark II Focus ST, which is a surprisingly powerful car, 5-cylinder turbo engine, 230 odd horsepower. You can get one of those for a few grand.
Yeah.
And even without cracking the engine open, you can put a load of bolt-ons on there to get it over 300 brake horsepower. The suspension options are huge. The brakes options are huge. You can buy all sorts of things for these relatively affordable cars. So it's an easy thing to get into with a lot of scope for personalization and creativity. So you find that the young people are getting into surprisingly powerful cars.
Yeah.
But like you say, there's also a lot of people of my age who grew up doing this stuff that have now got maybe a broader spectrum on what they like to drive and to see at shows.
Yeah.
So, for example, I grew up driving lots of hot hatches. I had 205 GTIs and Renault 1960 Mals and that kind of thing, the sort of cars that you don't see a lot of these days. And that's the kind of thing that I really love to see at a show, because it's nostalgic. It tugs on the heartstrings.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned like the Renault and the Peugeots. I mean, those in good condition are now very, very valuable cars. I mean, are there any of them still out there that are affordable, that are in a condition where you could give it the copacetic treatment?
Yeah, I mean, another thing about the sort of the market maturing in age is that people have grown up and made their money and have, you know, the funds to spend on the cars that they wanted when they were young. So, say if you grew up in the late 90s and always wanted an Escort RS Turbo, but they were unachievable, you could now still go out and find one, and they'd be more expensive than a lot of newer and faster cars, but you can still find that solid classic. And then the aftermarket is there to chuck a load of stuff at it, so you could restore it to standard, or you could resto mod it, you could make it a lot more powerful, or I mean you could make it really high end, because these were cars that were mass produced to be kind of everyday runabouts, where you could dip in a kind of Rolls-Royce style interior, for example. There are companies that will very happily give you a bespoke interior. There's all sorts you can do to the chassis, to the engine. You could put a whole new engine in. Yeah, and these cars are still out there. They are increasingly scarce, but they do still exist.
Yeah. When you're talking to that, I once remember being at a show and somebody had managed to shovel the Lamborghini's interior into a Volkswagen Polo. How they'd achieved it, I do not know, because all the seats, etc., are all rubbing against each other.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of cross-pollination within that scene in particular, because being part of the Volkswagen Audi group, you do very often see kind of Audis on Bentley wheels, Golfs on Lamborghini wheels. That's a whole thing.
So, I mean, what you mentioned Allegros. I conclude for people starting out, do they tend to go for what you might call the cheaper alternatives instead of wanting to do something like a higher end Audi or something like that? Is there, shall we say, a cheap range of cars that people could start with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in the case of the Allegro, it's not so much that it's a cheaper option; it's a belligerently weird one, because they're so derided that it's a real challenge to build a cool one. And there are some people doing this really well. So Retro Power are building 2 of them at the moment. Johnny Smith from the Late Break Show is building a really nice one as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of affordable starting points. For example, the K11 Nissan Micra, the one that they built in the late 90s.
Oh yeah.
Is a very affordable starting point. There's still a lot of them out there. They're super reliable, and there's lots you can do to them. So you do find a lot of young people driving around in old Micras now, which is cool, because that was kind of your archetypal little old lady's shopping car, which is now becoming quite a cool thing.
Now, as I said, to launch a new magazine I mean, I've been in this industry after I stopped driving for a living, and I was doing it whilst I was driving for a living. I had to make some money somewhere. Launching a magazine is not a cheap affair. How did you talk somebody into launching a new magazine, in what is, shall we say, not maybe a depressed market, but people aren't spending money as much? Paying out money for a magazine is something they maybe won't do.
Yeah, it's I mean, launching a new magazine in this climate is terrifying and expensive and probably completely insane. But it felt like the time was right, because this is something I've always wanted to do. And I've been a freelance journalist for about 15 odd years, and I've got to the stage where I'm kind of sick of all the doors being closed. There are so many magazines that I've written for on a regular basis that have been shut down. And these are popular magazines with big followings. And it just made sense to me to make the kind of magazine that I would want to buy, with the sort of quality that I would want at a price that is affordable, and just see if it works. I mean, the fact that we've got such a strong roster of respected writers and photographers on board really helps. And I mean, yeah, it just felt like the time was right. It is. I have no investors, so I had to take out a substantial loan to make this work. I have no idea how many issues it's going to be before we even break even.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where if you don't know, if you don't try, then you don't know how it's going to work out. But yeah, it all seems to be going very well so far. So the first issue is very close to being completely sold out in the online store. We've done 2 covers. We've got one for the newsstand and one for subscribers. The newsstand cover in our website is completely sold out. The subscriber cover, we've got, I think, 7 left.
Yeah.
So it's got to the stage now where if people want to buy it, they have to go and find it in the shops.
And I mean, where did you find your columnists? I mean, I can remember until I stopped writing and became radio and, shall we say, I did TV work for a while, but not in the UK. I did it in France and Germany. I only started doing radio when I came back to the UK. But as the number of magazines decline, or the quality of magazines decline, and certain people think that, one example, I was asked by a Land Rover magazine to write an article on a stunningly restored Series 1 Land Rover. When I asked what the rate was, they said, no, you'll do it for the sheer pleasure of seeing your name in print. Well, I commented, I said, I've seen my name in print sufficiently to not be doing it for free. I mean, there's a glut of journalists out there. How did you select the journalists you've got? Because you've quite a few, some decent names in in your columnists, haven't you?
Yeah, so these are all people that I've either known or worked with for years now. Richard Porter and I have discussed various ideas over the years, and when I told him I was launching this magazine, he was quite keen to be involved. Ditto Alex Goy, who I meet up with him fairly regularly at car meets and what have you, and he was really keen to be involved. And a number of other people are ones who I've commissioned to write on other magazines. So Trinity Francis, for example, Anthony Ingram, who's ex-Evo, they're people I've worked with before.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Della Torre I was keen to have on board writing this BMW piece because she was previously editor of Performance BMW magazine before that got shut down, and is very passionate about that kind of thing. So yeah, it's all kind of connections that I've had for years, people that I trust to do a good job. And like you say, there's been a bit of rot set in publishing over the last decade or so, where people are trying to get respected names to work for free for the glory of being in print. And, you know, my mortgage provider doesn't accept exposure as payment. So you've got to pay people a fair rate for what they do. That's the way it works. So
I can remember saying to one editor, I said something like that. I said, I must try going into my local supermarket, filling my trolley, getting to the till and saying, oh, you can't charge me, I'm Mark Stone. I said, I can visualise the reaction to that.
Yeah, exactly. It's nonsense, isn't it?
I mean, one columnist is Helen Stanley, who used to be, I don't know if she still does it, but she was on TV because she did a lot of modification work in her own right, didn't she?
That's right, yes. And again, she's somebody I've known for many years. We've worked together on various different things. And she's got a lot of very interesting opinions on the modified car scene, so I was keen to have her as a columnist.
Yeah.
Because she's got a lot of relevant things to say, and she's very engaging. Again, when I told her that I was launching this magazine, she was very keen to be involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, good person to have on board.
Now, it's like you said before, it makes a profit. I mean, it's always been known that a new magazine, it can be 2 years before they show a profit. The one, funnily enough to go back to it, the one that broke the mould was Max Power. That seemed to hit profit in about 5 or so months. I mean, that was incredible. I mean, how do you and your publisher sit and look at this? I conclude the fact it's selling out will make your publisher a very happy man.
Well, I mean, I am the publisher, so I'm quite happy with it.
Or shall we say the person who's helping? Because I conclude there will be other people helping you in this. Or are your shoulders broad enough to do it all on your own?
Well, I mean, I wanted to be as independent as possible, so I've set this up as it's a limited company of which I am the sole person, really, so it rests on my shoulders. However, it is very important to point out that none of this would have happened without the help of the team at Classic Retro Modern magazine.
All right.
Because I've been talking about doing this thing for years. At the start of this year, they were incredibly helpful with giving me contacts for a printer, distributor for shops, the agency I'm now using to do the ad sales. Setting up all of those relationships was something that I didn't know how to do. Yeah. Because I've been an editor of magazines for years now, but I've never done that side of it. I've never operated one as a business. So they were, and continue to be, incredibly helpful in making this mad idea an actual reality. So, yes, I have so much respect for them and so much gratitude for the help they've given me to make this thing appear on shelves.
Now, you've selected, and I'm pleased to say, I mean, I like them like this, you've you've selected quite an expensive presentation. It's semi-matte paper. It's perfect bound. This isn't a cheap magazine to produce. I mean, I conclude you to launch a new magazine, new motoring magazine, you've got to make it initially visually desirable.
Yeah, I mean, this is way more expensive than it could have been to produce. But the whole point from the start was that I wanted something that was not only engaging to read and beautiful to look at, but would be something, when you finish with it, you put it on the shelf for future reference rather than putting it in the recycling. It's a keepsake. It's a beautiful object. And the paper stock and the presentation is a crucial part of that. So, I mean, you do find with a lot of magazines these days, the paper's getting cheaper and thinner, and it just doesn't feel like something substantial that's going to last. I wanted something that would endure, and that felt like good value as well, because, I mean, you can't escape the fact that magazines necessarily have got more expensive. Yeah, it's just the nature of it. So I wanted this, particularly as it's bi-monthly, that gives us a pass to be a little bit more expensive than the monthlies, but I didn't want it to be too expensive, but at the same time it had to be properly high quality. And I'm really pleased with the way it's come out. It feels like a really nice object.
Yeah. Now, do you think you'll stay bi-monthly?
Well, I mean, the dream would be to go monthly,
yeah,
but that's going to be dictated by enthusiasm and sales. We certainly have enough content to do it monthly. So it's actually viable. So we'll see. It's going to be bi-monthly for the foreseeable future, but hopefully we can change that at some point.
Now, I conclude that at some point it will move from being an online purchase, etc., and I conclude there will be a subscription facility, but it will be available on the newsstands, to use an Americanism.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So there's a number of ways that you can buy the magazine, because we've got our whole fancy website where you can order it. We have gone digital as well. You can get it on Pocket Mags and Readly, which isn't the way I would like people to consume it, but also I appreciate that some people do that, and that's, it would be mad not to offer that. But yeah, what's really useful is that we have our newsstand distribution deal with WH Smith and a number of high street independents as well.
Yeah.
And as of next week, we're also going to be in all the WH Smith travel outlets. So that's all the airports, train stations, tube stations, plus various hospitals and what have you. So yeah, it should be relatively easy to find, hopefully.
Right, because that's the one thing I find. There's certain magazines I buy that I have to wait till I'm at an airport, because I can't buy them. I can't walk into a W.H. Smith's on the high street and find them. But I can go into W.H. Smith's at Manchester Airport or Leeds Airport and find these magazines there. And I've always found it very strange. Or motorway services. But the average newsagent doesn't carry them.
Yeah, so WH Smiths have listed us within their top 300 stores.
Right.
So yeah, it's out there. There's a store finder as well that's quite helpful. If you Google Frontline store finder, that gives you a website where you can search for your nearest stockists. And yeah, I mean, I've seen it in a number of shops, which is very exciting because I made them. I've been doing a bit of kind of stealth positioning as well, where I take a bunch of stickers in my pocket all the time. If I see the magazine in a shop, that I'll stick some free stickers in there so that the next person who buys it gets a little freebie.
Right. Now, yeah, besides this, you have what you might call a proper job. You are editor of one of the mini magazines, aren't you?
That's right, yes, Mini Worlds. So, yeah, I was, a few years ago, I was editor of Mini Magazine, as was. That closed down, then I moved on to Fast Forward. I was editor of that for a couple of years. For the last 18 months or so, I've been editor of Mini World. Yeah.
Do you own a Mini?
Not currently. I've had a bunch. Well, no, I've got a modern one, but Mini World is about classic minis, so yeah, it's a separate thing, yeah.
Because, I mean, that's the one thing, just to touch on minis. I can remember when I was a lad, I had quite a few minis. I also wrote a few of them off. As regards the BMW Mini, I didn't mind the first ones, the Mini 1, because to a degree they did, though they were larger, did look like the Mini. But the modern Mini is anything but, and in my opinion, you'll probably disagree, I don't think the modern Mini that you'll see in the showroom now looks anything like, and I don't particularly like them. What is the reaction of the Mini? I know Mini owners have changed, they've got younger. What's the reaction to the modern Mini?
is very polarizing. So you do find there's a lot of people who have classic minis who absolutely hate the modern ones. You do also find there's a lot of people who have a classic mini as a weekend toy who own a modern one as their kind of day-to-day runabout.
Yeah.
Another really important point to remember is that minis are not cheap cars anymore. You can't buy a classic usable mini that you can just jump into and drive around in without doing loads of work to it for less than, well, $5,000-6,000, which has priced out a lot of younger buyers. So you do find that people are buying the early R50 minis, so the ones from the early 2000s, which are cheap and abundant, and they're using that as a gateway into the mini scene. So they've got their oldest possible modern mini, if you know what I mean, which they can then take to shows where there are lots of classic minis. They can get involved in the community, and that gets them into the scene, and they can later kind of buy a classic mini when they can afford it. So there are lots of ties between the two, but there will always be the kind of militant classic owners who will not have any time for a modern one and will say it's not a mini, it's a BMW. Get very cross about it. Frankly, I think life's too short to be cross about cars. There's bigger things in the world, but
I mean, does the young mini owner enthusiast still lust after an X-Works Cooper? Is that still the ultimate mini fan's ultimate possession?
Yeah, they're hideously expensive these days. It's very sought after. That is the dream car for a lot of enthusiasts. But I mean, it's the same with any car scene. It's that my dad had one of those draw will bring you towards any particular thing that tugs the nostalgia heartstrings. So, for example, the Clubmans these days are massively popular. They were derided for a long time for kind of looking a bit weird, having the different kind of bluff front and what have you. And nowadays, 1275 GTs in particular are very, very valuable and sought after. So there are levels of snobbishness, but at the same time it's a very inclusive scene because everyone's in it for the same reason. If you go to a mini show, it will just be dozens and dozens of families all out there for a fun day. It's not just about the car, it's about the community.
Well, just to upset you, I had a Clubman GT, a Howley engine conversion one, and I put that straight through a dry stone wall.
Oh, no.
And a great friend of mine and past guest is, and you've probably met him, is X-Works co-driver Mike Wood. And at one point in time, he was doing something. He rang them up and said, I need a car for knocking about in. Oh, they said, take this. And it was an X-Works Cooper. And when he said, well, do you want it back? They said, nah, go on, give us £100 for it. Daniel Beavis, thanks so much for joining me on the Backseat Driver. All the best with Copacetic. I look forward to seeing it on the newspaper magazine racks. And can I wish you all success, and I hope it succeeds and flies off into the future.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
That's great. Thanks so much indeed, Daniel. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye. Rarely beaten on price, never beaten on service. Whether it's cars, bikes or commercials, Hoddy Tyres are the best in the business. And when it comes to tyre expertise and advice to supplying the correct tyres for your vehicle's specific requirements, nobody comes close to David Lakin and the Hoddy Tyres team. So give them a call on 01200 613 192 or visit the website at hoddytyres.co.uk.